Hi, I'm Aaron Doherty, and this is part 2 of a series of tutorial videos to help you learn how to program in HTML. In the previous video, I explained a bit about some of the basics of programming and what HTML is, and how to get started with a simple Hello World example. If you are completely unfamiliar with how to program and you missed that, I suggest you start there. In this video, I'm going to show you how to add a little bit of extra code to your Hello World example that's going to make it work a little bit better. Unfortunately, it's not going to change how your Hello World looks, only it's going to make sure that it works better, and it's going to teach you a little bit more about how HTML actually works. So let's start by opening your Hello World HTML program that we created last time in a text editor. Now add the following line. There's a lot to this line. I'll go over each piece. First, the angle bracket, or Pac-Mans as we often call them. In HTML, there are really two important pieces of information that you need to pay attention to. The text that you want to display, like we did in Hello World, and commands that you put around that text to make the page look and work the way you want it to. This is the markup part of the hypertext markup language. By default, everything you type is just text that displays in your web browser. If you want to make that text special, then you need to use a command. All commands begin with an open angle bracket and end with a close angle bracket. This is one place where you do need to be a little bit careful, because your web browser, if it sees an open angle bracket, then it's going to assume everything that follows is a command until it sees that close angle bracket. So if you forget to put a close angle bracket, then it's going to assume your entire page, all of your code, all of your text, everything is a command. So remember, always close your angle brackets. Luckily, HTML is a very forgiving language. So if it sees a command that it doesn't understand, well, then it's just going to ignore it and pretend that it didn't see anything to begin with, instead of throwing out an error and making your entire page not work. Now you can see in your code we have a command, followed by text. Let's go a little bit more into that command. The next character you see is an exclamation mark, or bang. This is kind of a funny character in HTML, as it actually has two meanings. The first and most common meaning is to create a comment. A comment is a piece of code that essentially does absolutely nothing. It doesn't display text on your web page. It doesn't mark up your text. It doesn't do any code. It doesn't process anything. It's there as kind of a textual reminder to the programmer for however you may want to use it. It might be there to remind you why you wrote a certain piece of code. Maybe it's there to remind you what you want to do there later. You know, it's basically kind of like a note to self, or a note to another programmer who might come along. The second meaning, which is what we're using in this particular case, is actually much rarer. It goes back to the really old days of HTML, when browsers weren't as forgiving as they are now. Unfortunately, there's still a few places where we use it. This is one of them, and pretty much the only one where you really need it anymore. So let's move on to the next part, which is the Doctype statement. This is the meat of the command. It basically tells the web browser what kind of document this is. We know that it's HTML, but there's a little bit more than just HTML. We need to know what version of HTML, what flavor of that version of HTML, if there's any special things that the web browser needs to know about. Which moves us on to the next part where it says HTML. It used to be, you would say HTML3, HTML4, and a lot of other little pieces to tell the browser specifics about the flavor of HTML we're using. HTML5 did away with all of that and just says, just say HTML. Really easy. So now the last part, remember you want to close your angled bracket. Say this is the end of our particular command. And there you have it, the doctype command. While technically not necessary, this command is a really good thing to have in every HTML page, because without it, your web browser is going to try to guess at what version of HTML and what flavors of that version you're actually trying to use. When you put this, you take all that guesswork away, and it also removes any ambiguity that the browser may have and ensures that the browser is going to do the right thing, do the expected thing with the code that you have provided. Thank you for checking out my tutorial. Again, my name is Aaron Doherty, and I am doing a series of tutorials that are going to teach you everything you need how to program. We're starting off with HTML, one of the easiest, most flexible, accessible languages out there. By the time I'm done, you'll know just about every programming language there is, how to do it, and you'll be an absolute master. But that's a lot of videos later, so bear with me. I ask that you like, that you share, and if you have any questions about this video, please feel free to put them in the comments and I will answer everybody's questions. If you have any suggestions on how to make this video more useful, I'm listening. I find that very helpful. And if you have any questions about programming in general, even if it's not about topics covered in this particular video, I'm more than happy to answer. Please comment, like, share, and I will keep making these as long as you keep liking and sharing and I keep finding them fun.